The best revenge is living well, and also a little bit of gloating, which is, I'm sure, what we are going to see out of Jimmy Kimmel's monologue tomorrow because his show is back on the air. It doesn't matter what the bully Donald Trump tried to do. Our bullying, our boycott, our voices were that much louder, and so Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air. And not only is Donald Trump furious and all of MAGA, but so is Jesse Waters, who threw himself a little on-air temper tantrum after his dear leader was defeated. We're going to get into it, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into Jesse's response to this beautiful breaking news, I want to start with Jessica Tarlov's important response when we initially saw Jimmy Kimmel removed from the air, because we need to hear a little bit of sanity coming out of the Fox propaganda outlet.
Well, the media and politicians and everyone, all the editorial boards of the nation's biggest paper, including the Wall Street Journal, that wrote Mr. Kimmel's words were only moderately offensive. We want to be clear that none of this justifies the right's resort to regulatory censorship. And the premise that Democrats are more concerned about Jimmy Kimmel than they were about the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk is completely unfounded. Democrats said all the right things that all of us felt about, that it was tragic, that violence, political violence, has no place in our society. And we were met with, this is your fault, and we are at war. There's been this move today to rewrite the story of how Jimmy Kimmel ended up being indefinitely suspended, to absolve Brendan Carr of his role in this and the government's larger role in it. But the timeline just doesn't add up. I've heard, well, read the Hollywood Reporter and read the Wall Street Journal on this. I looked through all of it, and the common denominator is that Brendan Carr said to Benny Johnson, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. And the affiliates, who were already freaking out about it for sure, decided then that they were going to pull it. And so ABC and Disney in general, Bob Iger, had no choice but to do it. There are some smart Republicans that are cautioning them to come back from this line. Ted Cruz, of all people, who's the chair of the Commerce Committee, which actually has oversight over the FCC, said what Carr said there is dangerous as hell. That's right out of a mafioso. When it's used to silence conservatives, we will regret it. We should denounce it. So I understand now we don't live in cancel culture. It's just consequence culture. And you think an eye for an eye is a good solution to everything. That's what I've seen pelted at me about this. Well, you did this, you did this, you did this, you did this. That is not a way to run a free society. And you can't just trample on the First Amendment because something tragic and horrible happened.
I talked about this when we first heard the news that Donald Trump was sending his goons to pressure Bob Iger, who had a little chicken shit moment and allowed himself to fold. That, the narrative that the right was presenting, was that Jimmy Kimmel was removed from the air because he said something insensitive about Charlie Kirk. Now, we know that was never the case. But if their argument was that public pressure would result in Jimmy Kimmel being removed from the air because of Charlie Kirk, then public pressure in the other direction would get him back on. And it did. But this was never an outrage from the audience. This was Donald Trump, which is the reason why this clip from Eric Swalwell, before we get into Jesse Waters, matters so much to me.
Maybe I was not loud enough in the past when Republicans spoke out against government censorship. And if that's the case, I will go back and revisit whether I could have been louder. But that does not mean that today Republicans are silent just in an effort to own the libs. If you didn't like cancel culture when you thought it was happening in prior administrations, you certainly can't look at what just happened in our country and accept that that is something we should live with and we should tolerate. So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened.
Intimidate them. Not just the executives at ABC, at Disney. Intimidate Republicans. Tell them what's coming. Govern with a vengeance when you retake this majority, Democrats. Govern with a vengeance, because it will be a rightful and justified vengeance. We want justice. We want to fix what they have broken and hold them accountable so that they know we're not fucking around any longer. And no one should know that better than the Fox propaganda outlet, legally that is, which is why Jesse Waters, in a moment of cope, said this.
I understand why he is coming back. He will probably read something that the lawyers wrote for him and act trite for a second. Some of us have been there. And then he will carry on and be the exact same Jimmy Kimmel that we're used to.
You think Jimmy Kimmel is going to have to read a statement? For what? Jimmy Kimmel didn't lose a $787 million lawsuit, Jesse, with Dominion voting systems because he was lying about the 2020 election. Jimmy Kimmel didn't lie. Jimmy Kimmel was removed from the air because Donald Trump's a little baby. He's a little crybaby. And Bob Iger, for a couple days there, was his bitch. But then he saw that stock price start ticking down, billions of dollars in market cap, all because of us, evaporate, go off into thin air. And he realized, I think I'd rather pick a fight with Donald Trump than with us, the people fighting back, the resistance. And I don't know what could be more inspiring or energizing than that. To see the power that we have to fight back against this administration, which, by the way, wants you to think that they do win all these legal battles. Do you know how many times Donald Trump has been injuncted? Carolyn Levitt screams about it all the time. He's had his plans stopped, thwarted, upended. Do you know how many lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits, he's lost? The Republican Party used to be, we're going to be small government. Now the government is taking over everything, including the late night that you watch. They used to say, oh, we hate the little petty litigation. Now that's all that Donald Trump does is sue and sue and sue. They're hypocrites. Let's call them out. And let's point out the fact that they are not inevitable. That is what Donald Trump wants us to think. Donald Trump didn't show up to the Disney corporate office and say, I'm ready to push this red button, right? And unless you take Kimmel off the air, we're wiping this whole place out. No. Donald Trump's FCC commissioner alluded to the fact that it was easy way or hard way. That was the threat he made to Disney. But they didn't action anything, right? There was no actual crackdown. They capitulated in advance. They didn't want to have the fight. That's what we can't allow to happen. You need to have the fight. When we saw the ABC settlement with Donald Trump, it wasn't because they lost. They settled because they wanted it to be over. I think the era of over is over. I think the era of anticipatory capitulation is done for. All of the fights will be had. This guy is a loser. He lost at business. God, I wish he lost last year. He did lose 5 years ago. And quite bigly. He lost so bigly. What a big loser. But this guy loses. I know he won 2 elections. I know. And for that, our country is much, much worse. But he is, at his core, a loser. And he knows it. He knows it. So let's have all these fights. Let's go out there and battle. If he's going to keep shipping out the lawsuits, lawyer up. Fight him. Fight him like Jasmine Crockett is.
This particular president has decided that he wants to shake down people as relates to the First Amendment because he has filed not 1 lawsuit, not 2 lawsuits, but he has filed numerous lawsuits. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. He filed one against the Wall Street Journal, against CBS, against ABC, against the Des Moines Register. He is doing all of this because he wants to quash any speech that is not appreciative or lauding him, which is pretty much anything that's factual. So let's talk a few facts about these January 6 felons that should still be incarcerated because they went through the process, but because they were doing things on his behalf, of course, he wanted to let them go. So they released more than 1,000 people who participated in the insurrection on this government, many of whom who had previous criminal records, like Mr. Theodore Mendenforth, who was convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, or Mr. Peter Schwartz, who had 38 prior convictions, including one where he beat his wife by repeatedly punching her and biting her. Trump also pardoned Mr. David Daniel, who was convicted of production and possession of child pornography. Trump also pardoned pardoned Mr. Daniel Ball, who, quote, threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot. He also had a record for, quote, domestic violence by strangulation. I'm not done. Trump also pardoned Mr. Andrew Taki, who sent nudes to an undercover law enforcement officer who was posing as a 15-year-old girl. Mr. Casey Hopkins also received a pardon from Trump, and Mr. Hopkins was convicted of forcible rape. According to court records, he, quote, had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth as he humiliated her. These are the people that he decided to release in the streets of D.C. So if anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked, as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country, and it is a shame that we are dealing with it now, and now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.
Okay.
If he wants to go after your speech, your right to call out this bullshit fascist administration. They want to say that fascist now is a slur, it's a hate crime, it's a word we can't use, it's a naughty no-no. It's not. It's these people being so damn soft. They're snowflakes. They can't hang, they can't handle it. They hate it. They hate it when we antagonize them. Isn't that all the encouragement you need to do it more? To have ketchup all over the walls of the White House? That's what I want to do. We can actually fight these people. We can win. We did today. Let's win on the big shit. Let's keep it going. Let's keep talking about it. I promise you I'm going to be on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, drop a blue heart in the comments, and if you want to support the show in a different way, off of YouTube, as always, you can become a subscriber to my Substack right here or linked below. Becoming a paid or free subscriber, one of the best ways to support the show, and I write a lot of fun stuff about there. I think I was one of the first people to put out a Substack post saying Jimmy Kimmel was back, so breaking news, if you're in the market, you can find it there. But keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I will see you soon.